After her two brothers fought and killed each other in a battle for who was going to be the ruler, Antigone had even more tragedy to deal with, as one of her dead brothers was sentenced to have his body left to decay in dishonor without a proper burial. In the tragedy by Sophocles, she becomes one of the very first literary examples or symbols of the divine or natural law expressing itself as the antithesis to the law of men, as she determines herself to capture her brother's body and bury it as it is fit and right for every child of God. We all have to determine, ascertain, and discern our way through daily consciousness battles that engage us intellectually, emotionally, and energetically. We sometimes need to take a stand for what we perceive as our principles or core values or instincts. It is natural and logical for us to make a choice, as free will was given us by God. Within polarity, free will is the tool for exploration of consciousness, but our choices are always variations of oneness, divine law, or ego separation. When we align with Christ consciousness, oneness, divine law, it may sometimes mean that on a practical level in this realm, we have to take determined action in some way or another. Antigone defied her king's decision and aligned with what she perceived to be divine law that, in her view, superseded any law made by man. But we have to balance our determined action with the understanding that we are all aspects of one another, and as such, it is ourself we talk to when we go to work, it is ourself we fight with, and it is ourself we pray to at night. Being conscious of the game of consciousness that is taking place, we may find ourselves understanding each other more, for our makeup is indeed a complicated one, and each human manifestation is the result of an equation so intricate that demands at least some level of respect from our part in recognizing self and the glory of God in all of his manifestations. For every one of us is oneness distorted infinitely in time and space, to the point it manifested as the reality we experience right now. This understanding brings a layer of engagement that brings us the confidence and the knowing that we can play our part in this unfolding of events just by being conscious of the unfolding and holding space for the actualization of self we are all in the process of becoming. Navigating our lives through all our dealings with other people, it may be helpful if we all saw each other as innocent as children, children that might need a friend or to be understood or simply seen and heard. Of course, with children we sometimes need to be firm as well, but always respectful at the same time. For when do we really grow old? Or rather, when do we really move on from the child in us? Is it a gradual process that we are not even conscious of, or do we have to put some conscious effort into becoming adults? Regardless, childhood experiences echo via our subconscious through the rest of our lives, and as much as we try to be adults, the inner child will always need our help and advice, and sometimes a firm but comforting voice to guide through any emotional turmoil or confusion. Seeing the inner child in our other selves helps us understand them and love them more ultimately. And is this not the meaning of life, after all? Loving each other as ourselves? Those moments when love opens our eyes and hearts are moments of clarity when consciousness distortions unravel and we are able to remember our past, our divine origin. At the same time, we become aware of the process of ascension being a process of undistorting our energy as we awaken to our true identity and divine destination that was hidden before our eyes by the distortions we had in hand in creating. Our undistorted past and our undistorting future may present themselves as our multidimensional present. The rules of time collapse as we inform the journey of becoming with our ongoing human experiences. With our divine origin in our linear past and our divine destination in the linear future, we may see the journey we are on now as our divine purpose, to take part in this exploration of consciousness, a free will choice to discover new manifestations of self, new ways for oneness to express itself. And speaking of the present, We may consider that the present is where our happiness lies. Yes, sometimes we may need to take determined action relating to events happening around us, but it is helpful to remember that whatever the circumstances, whatever the play out that is unfolding around us looks like, we can instantly transport ourselves to the bliss that is our true identity, and the knowing that this brings will ground that energy of love, light, and happiness to our being. For this miracle to occur, there are no requirements and no waiting time. We often find ourselves waiting for something to happen, a point in the future, a holiday, an event. Something to look forward to is something that keeps a lot of people going through tough times, but it is distracting us from what we already have right now, for this miracle is ready for us right here and now. It's a realization, a memory, a knowing, an energy signature that translates into an experience of happiness, wholeness, and freedom. No needs and wants, and no fear. That is what being whole, complete, and free really means. For what can oneness possibly need or be afraid of? The concept of a God-fearing person comes to mind. It is not a concept that underlines the fear towards God, but rather that there is nothing to fear if the only thing you fear is God. So it may be that it is more about fearlessness than it is about fear. The more we immerse ourselves and our consciousness into this Christ consciousness, this oneness that is also our identity, the more true blissful happiness we will radiate and receive. And this miracle is available now everywhere.